Hello, my name is Frédéric Mérand and I'm an associate professor of political science at Université de Montréal. I'm also deputy director of the EU Center of Excellence, which is co-hosted by McGill University and Université de Montréal. I've been interested in Canada-EU relations for a long time. This started as a job that I had in the Foreign Affairs Department in Canada, where I had to deal with EU relations. And I was a European specialist, so I became interested for professional reasons in Canada-EU relations. Also for personal reasons, because I have family links to Europe like many Canadians, and therefore I was interested in understanding how the Canada-Europe relationship had evolved over time. Which brings me to CETA, to the Canada-Europe Economic Partnership Agreement. When one looks at the Canada-Europe relationship over the past 50 years, it's interesting to note that it has had its ups and downs. Of course, until the 50s, Canada and Europe had a very strong economic and political relationship through the UK, through the mother country, if you like. This went down quite significantly starting in the 50s and 60s and 70s, when the political and trade relationship became much weaker. So in the 70s, the government of Pierre Trudeau at the time tried to launch what it called a third option. The idea was that Canada should reinvigorate its trade relationship with Europe, and that was seen as a way to diversify Canada's economy, which had become very dependent on the US. Well, that didn't really work, and what we see in the 80s and 90s is that the trade relationship with Europe continues to become weaker and weaker. However, the security relationship remained quite strong, especially through NATO, which until the late 80s saw Canadian forces being posted, for example, in Europe. So that was a very strong security relationship. Canada was part of the Western Alliance and devoted to the protection and the security of Western Europe. But also in the 90s, with all of the operations in the Balkans, the NATO operations in the Balkans, where Canada played a major role. So that was a situation about 10 years ago, and what's interesting now is that we see that the security relationship has again taken a hit. There's not much interaction or cooperation between Canada and the EU. Of course, there was an important Canadian contribution to the Libya operation in the summer of 2011, but by and large there's not much going on, and there's not a great deal of appetite on either sides of the Atlantic for a stronger security relationship. However, for the past few years there have been negotiations on a new trade agreement between Canada and Europe, and that has had a quite important profile in Canada. So it's interesting to see that in a way the relationship has been reversed. It used to be more security focused, now it's again perhaps more trade focused, and that again goes back to Canada's ambition to diversify its markets. Now the question, of course, is whether this will work. Currently there are strong protectionist urges in Canada, and to an even greater extent in Europe. So the question is whether we will see the basis of a renewed economic partnership between Canada and Europe, which of course will never be as important as it was 100 years ago, or whether this will be another failed attempt at recreating a transatlantic link through trade.